honestly is the beauty of like when you boil it down, it's like, you know, like meaning or like the purpose of life and business are very similar. It's like seek truth, create love, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you are authentic and true to you, there are going to be certain people that resonate with that more than they do with what I, you know, with more than they resonate with me. And so just by being yourself and sharing that with the world, like you're going to attract the people who are meant to work with you. If you want to sustain and you want to be in it for the long haul, then you have to be doing good business. And so I do think that Alex is so smart that even if, and he seems like to be a high integrity guy as well. So I think he is doing things the right way. The only area where I feel like he maybe does his audience a disservice is the disconnect from faith.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Stick Talk podcast. We had a little technical difficulties yesterday, so we're very happy and honored to be back shooting a podcast for you guys. So you don't cherish something enough until it's taken away from you. And yesterday we lost the ability to record our show, so we're very, very grateful to be here.
Yeah,
and we have
really didn't know how to react.
Guest on.
First one back at the cigar bar too in a minute.
Yeah,
dude.
Been gone for a while.
And a special episode because my first ever business call, really, I think, was with this man sitting next to me. I think we were selling like PR at the time, and I was like, "You should probably get in on this press release." And you were like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're probably right, but welcome on, man."
Thanks. Happy to be here. Yeah, this is definitely a full circle moment.
Yeah,
a lot of
we go way back,
like
bro.
4 years.
Yeah, at least
Longer.
4 years. So I mean, we just recently had on Aaron, who you guys were working together back in the Social X days. So we'll get through a lot of that story, similar to if you guys haven't checked out the Aaron Pratt episode. Essentially, you guys were business partners in the early days and are still working together.
Yeah, we've been business partners on a couple different projects, and then that's also kind of come full circle now, where we are in discussion of another partnership.
Starting again.
Not like full on like, hey, we're running the same company, but just there's so much synergy between the two businesses that we're running that like more of a strategic partnership.
Yeah, talk about that, because I think in like the world of entrepreneurship, you always hear about like integrator versus visionary, right? I'm sure you're familiar with the concept. And to me, it sounds like Aaron is like the sales type. He's kind of the visionary. And you're more the systems integrator type of guy. So is that why you guys work well together, or would you rebuttal that with something else?
Yeah, kind of. So that was why I think the partnership didn't completely work from the get-go.
Okay.
Was because I do consider myself more of a visionary as well.
Okay.
I just understand the importance of the systems, of the integrator. And so I've built a company kind of delivering that service at scale. And initially so Aaron runs a company right now called Sales Momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So initially we kind of co-founded that company together, and Aaron is definitely much more talented and skilled on the customer acquisition side than I am. To me, the most leverage that you can build and the easiest way to scale client acquisition is by just delivering on the promises that you make to the marketplace and over delivering for your clients. And it creates kind of this flywheel of customer acquisition. So that's kind of always been my focus. Okay. Whereas Aaron is he loves the hunt, man. So he's, one client, next client, next client. He can also do the fulfillment. He understands and he cares about his clients as well. But what really excites him is that next customer. And when we were initially building Sales Momentum, I was the one who was doing the fulfillment, building out the SOPs and doing that sort of thing to scale myself out of it. And he was just acquiring customers too fast. I was just like, bro, we do not have the capacity to do this. Yeah, we had we loved working together. He's a great dude. One of my best friends, and basically just had a call with him where I was like, we're growing similar businesses in different directions.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, I really want to build out a fulfillment team and see how we can do this at scale, and your strength is the acquisition side, and you want to do more of the sales coaching, sales consulting. At the time, he had a really a really good gig with 0%, where he was kind of their fractional sales director. He was, able to continue building his company on the side, but he was making really good money overseeing the sales team there and producing yet another like great case study.
Yep.
And I was like, honestly, if I were you, I would focus on that for the next 6 months. You'll have more than your needs met. You'll be able to bankroll and then decide what you want to build with yet another like sick $1 million a month case study under your belt. And I kind of I want to be able to do things that are not scalable right now to figure out how to scale and solve this problem. Because being able to build systems at scale is a very nuanced thing. And there's tons of people out there that are trying to sell you like cookie cutter systems, but I didn't want to do that. And I knew that it was going to be very difficult and it was going to take a lot of experimentation and iteration. And I was like, bro, I'm going to have to go way slower than you want to go right now. And so I kind of got to do this on my own. And I was like, hey, it might work out to where I solve the fulfillment systems at scale and you solve customer acquisition at scale and we meet back up in the middle. And I think that's kind of what's happening
where
now.
you're at now.
So explain to me what the problem is that you're solving, because I have a really good idea being in the business for a while, but a lot of people watching right now are probably like, what is this guy talking about? Building systems at scale? Like, what is all of that? Obviously, I know the value that you bring to business owners, but if you could just like explain that problem that both you and Aaron are solving, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the reason why it was so difficult to solve initially is kind of because people do overcomplicate it. And so you're being hit with ads and, oh, there's this new mechanism, this new secret, this new system.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly thinking like, oh, I have to reinvent the wheel every single time. And so it just took me a while to really distill it down into like, there are essentially 4 systems, right? You have customer acquisition, you have customer fulfillment, you have talent acquisition, and you have delivering on the promise to your talent. So like
talent
performance.
retention.
Yeah. And those are the only 4 systems that you need to build. And then there's 4 components to every system. There is people, process, technology, and data. So essentially breaking down each one of those systems and figuring out like what are the different components and then helping people build them. Now, what makes it complicated is the people aspect, right? And there's different variables going into each system that you want to build based off of your existing team, skill sets, brand recognition, like the list goes on. But I like to try and break, business down to logic and math, right? Like there is no new mechanisms. There's no new secrets. Like everyone's been doing the same shit. Everyone read the same book by Russell Brunson. Like, like everyone's doing the same thing and they're just trying to like, dress it up as a new thing so that you become curious. You click on the link, you get on the call and you can get closed. I don't know if I necessarily answered your question as to what I do for really businesses, but it's
thing right there, because those 4 systems and the 4 components in that, you could talk to probably 150 business owners that and I doubt any one of them would have all 4 systems dialed with all 4 components actually being tracked properly. So that's really what you guys solve. That's the issue.
We help people build those 4 systems and make sure that all 4 aspects are taken care of. We can only right now, when I say we, I mean my business, Impact Operations. Aaron's solving a different problem. His is more like growth oriented. Like he's solving customer acquisition and marketing and revenue enablement, RevOps style stuff. He's taking a systematic approach to doing so, but we are specifically focused on building out those 4 systems and reverse engineering how to do so. The one thing that we can have not yet been able to solve for is people.
Yeah.
And so we've tried to, just like implement the same, like, okay, this same system worked for a different business in your exact niche. It should work for you, but the people are different.
Yep.
Right. And the leadership is different. So that's really the key component. I have a project I'm working on in the background to be able to solve for people very systematically.
Are they robots or?
Huh? It's a robotic way of approaching it, but basically having every single person that we've worked with take specific types of assessments so that we can reverse engineer like what the top people in each discipline, how they score on their like DISC assessment, their Colby index assessment, and their IQ assessment.
That's smart.
Okay. Yeah. What's his name? I was at a Taylor Welch mastermind event recently, and he was talking about how like the way they cracked the code on people was by assessments.
Yep.
And like theirs was, I think it's called the culture index. And it just helps you to understand like how to communicate with or interact with specific people on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's the only way they've been able to distill it down. And it's so fascinating.
I think there's one other component to it too, which is yet another like side project to try and reverse engineer, which is purpose.
Yeah, the name of your business is Impact Operations, you said, right? And so talk about what that means, like impact, purpose. These are big words.
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the things that I've always been driven by is being able to help others and impact others. I think that if we dissect it like all the way down, initially that stemmed from like a trauma response of just like not having enough self-love or self-worth for myself. So it was like, okay, I feel better when I am helping others. I think a lot of times people's purpose is like kind of does come from their trauma, right? And so it's like you're like healing that trauma and inspecting that trauma and being able to sort through that leads to like discovery of purpose. But before I knew any of that, I was just pursuing impact. So like that's when I feel my best, is when I'm helping others.
Okay.
And so being able to do that at scale is like what business is all about for me. And so I was so that's where the word impact came. And then there's kind of like a play on words because I was impacting businesses at this point through creating systems and enhancing their operations, as well as I wanted to work with impact driven operations. If you think of like a business as an operation.
Yeah.
So I wanted to impact businesses through operations and only do that for impact driven organizations. So
very cool.
That's kind of where the name came from.
How do you sell an operations offer on a sales call?
Whew. Oh man,
you can't like say, you're going to get X, Y, Z in revenue and sales.
It's so custom, right? It's almost like selling development work. Which
is where like reverse engineering those 4 systems and like making it less complicated. Because before I had like, before I was able to communicate it so simply, it was a 2-month sales cycle every time, if not more, 6 months, right? Because there's so much education required. Also, most people believe that their pain would be solved through more customers and more revenue, right? And they don't understand that at some point, without the proper systems or operations, you're actually scaling yourself into more chaos, right? So like the more that you bring on more customers, the more pain you're actually creating for yourself. And so it would take people, especially because a lot of times we're selling to our peers, unless, I know you guys are really good at outbound systems for lead gen and things of that nature. So you can go out and acquire whatever clients you're looking for. For me, it was mostly happening through word of mouth and referrals and just kind of my network. So I was selling to people who were where I was at, which was like, I needed more customers. So they needed more customers. And so they weren't at the point yet where there was enough pain for them to want to actually build systems. So that was a tough offer to sell. But basically what everybody really wants is freedom, right? And if you want freedom from your business, you need to have systems and predictability and transparency and like just methodical processes that like deliver an end outcome. But yeah, so I sell it through logic and math. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So like when you start a project, right? Like and you go in and you tackle the goal of fixing someone's operations, like what does that look like? Let's just say, for example, in a sales department, right? Because it's one of the 4 categories. Like if you were to break that
Customer
down into
acquisition.
people, technology, the 4 different facets of it.
Yeah. So again, I always try to kind of demystify things and simplify them. And so customer acquisition really comes down to traffic and conversions, right? You have to be able to generate traffic, generate interest in whatever you're doing. And then you have to have a mechanism for converting that traffic or that attention into deals. And so there's a finite amount of ways to generate traffic, and there's a finite amount of ways to convert that traffic into sales. And so I just try to treat everything like a math equation. Identify the variables and then start to eliminate as many variables as I can. And so usually if I'm coming in to try and systematically fix customer acquisition, you're figuring out what's already working. Like there's like a skill that the person has or the company has, or there's some type of variable to do with their brand that like naturally makes one particular form of lead generation or generating attention or traffic easier than others, right? Like maybe the founder is really good on camera. Okay, cool. So organic content, he's probably going to crush. Maybe they have like a skilled media buyer, a skilled marketer on the team. Okay, cool. So you can run some paid traffic. Maybe they're really good in person, really trustworthy. Maybe they generate great results. So then it's actually just hitting up more people that they've already worked with, and so just identifying what's working already, doing more of that. And then again, figuring out what's closest to that, right? So if you've identified that one channel is really powerful, there's probably an adjacent channel that you can start to work and start to expand. And then once you have enough resources, you can start to kind of systematically tackle all channels.
Sweet. Yeah, it's super cool.
How do you figure out that you're a systems guy? Because you have to be in an existing business to figure out you're a systems guy.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like
anything
it's
else.
just the way you're wired.
But like copywriting sales, like you could just start a copywriting business. You're not just like, oh, systems. Like I feel like you have to be in a large business to realize that you're good at it.
Yeah, it
Like,
wasn't
what was that background like for you?
for sure. That's a great question. Yeah, it definitely wasn't like, oh, I decided to start as an entrepreneur and I was like, I'm the systems guy. You know, it was just like, I think you're naturally going to gravitate towards things that you're good at. And eventually, like, there's enough commonality where people are like, you just end up building the systems. And then so it's like, okay, cool. This is what I'm good at. People have pain around this. It's a valuable solution. But when I first got started, it was marketing. I was new. Like I got into entrepreneurship a little bit later than a lot of the people in the online space these days who are, you know, young studs like you guys. I was probably about 25 years old. I had spent a few years in corporate America. I went to school on an academic scholarship. School always came very easy to me, but I lacked any like real, ever since like I stopped playing sports, I didn't really have any like actual purpose in like the progress that or like in like
you didn't have a goal.
Yeah, I didn't have a goal. It was like school was easy. I had a goal to graduate, but I didn't have to try for that.
Yeah.
You know? It was really like, how do I escape? Is like, you know, like really what I was doing was escaping through you know, women and alcohol and drugs and stuff, just like trying to be cool or, you know, have a good time while I was in college. And then afterwards had no idea what I wanted to do. Took the highest paying job that I was offered, which was a terrible job.
What was his job?
Operations manager for Avis Budget Group. So car rental.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Not fun. It was also in San Francisco. So what I didn't realize was that San Francisco was the most expensive city to live in. That's why the offer was the highest one.
Yeah,
that I
of course,
received.
because all of it's going to rent and taxes.
Exactly. So I was still broke and also had no control over the fact that the 300 people that I was managing absolutely hated their jobs. And it was a union location, super corporate. So there was zero influence that I had over anything. That was extremely frustrating. Also, no one gives a shit about rental car experience. So it didn't matter how many jobs I applied for.
Yeah.
Like they were just like,
It's not really
there's no
impactful.
transfer skills here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what people end up doing in the rental car industry is just transferring to another rental car company. And I was definitely not into that. And it was like, every single day somebody would tell me like, you're too good for this job. I was like, I know. And they're like, and then they would tell some horror story of like, that's what they told me 20 years ago too. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be here anymore.
Yeah.
You know? So, I had a couple friends who were, you know, traveling the world, speaking, like kind of doing whatever they wanted, it seemed like. And so I hit them up and I was like, what do you guys do? And both of them happened to run SEO agencies. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna learn that. And then so just kind of relied on, you know, my memory and my ability to learn things very quickly. Used all my PTO, spent, you know, 14 hours a day at Starbucks, taught myself SEO, then started like cold calling people and selling SEO services. And I remember signing my first $500 a month SEO client thinking that was it, you know, like call my mom and dad, like quit your jobs. I'm going to be rich.
I got MRO.
For real.
So that was kind of like some background of like I started in marketing. And then as you progress in business, like, so my buddy who was running a more successful SEO agency than me told me to read the E-Myth. The E-Myth is all about classic. Like, you know, building systems, removing yourself from the day-to-day, working on your business, not in it. Again, didn't really fully comprehend what that meant at the time. I was just trying to get more customers. But really what happened was I shifted into paid advertising from SEO because I wanted to be able to deliver for my customers quicker so that I could get a case study, a testimonial, or a referral or whatever, and start growing faster. And when I got into paid advertising and I started generating leads for people, their shit started to break. It was like either I was going to lose the client because I would have clients call me like, I have too many leads now. I need to pause services so that I can focus on fulfillment. And I was like, or you could just pay me the retainer and I'll figure out how to help you with the next fulfillment. Yeah.
You're solving the next problem.
Exactly. And so that's, I think, ultimately what it is. I like to solve problems. And then as I started to elevate in business, I didn't want to be the one who had to solve every problem. And so in order to be able to do that, yet ensure, like in order to remove myself from the process, yet ensure that the actual job got done, I had to create a system around it.
Mm-hmm. And then find the right people to go in and actually
Find the right,
operate.
yeah. It's, I mean, again, people, process, technology, and data.
Yep. Man, I feel like the one thing in there that most people, especially early on, underestimate is data. Like, you ask most entrepreneurs their numbers, they
No
don't
one
know.
knows. Yep.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah,
like
I think that's especially in the space that we're in, like the info product space, because it's
info is like such high profit. It's like you could get away with it to an extent, right?
you get away with like the with not being super sophisticated. It's also a pretty new business model, right? Like it's a new age thing. And so like the people who've been running businesses for 10, 20 years, they're not really in the info space, right? Or it's the people who weren't great at running that other business are now like trying to sell knowledge.
Yeah.
And so again, they're not like super sophisticated business owners in most cases, and therefore they don't know the power of data. They're just like, well, whatever. Like I've got high margins and like there's enough cash coming in, but that's why you see a lot of these info product businesses crash and burn after a few years, because they're constantly chasing that cash flow.
Yep.
And all it takes is 2 or 3 months of negative cash flow,
and you're done.
Yeah, they don't have any predictable way of adjusting.
It's crazy, yeah, because I feel like. To an extent too, like info markets are not huge. So like after a couple of years, you kind of burn through the entire market. If you don't have any customers that you retain, how do you survive? That's such an interesting point you bring up. Like the info space is so new that like it's not attracting like these super seasoned entrepreneurs. But I guess on the flip side, what are some info businesses that you look up to or admire, or kind of try to model after, if there are any out there?
Client Ascension for sure.
Yep. How much did I pay you for that mention? I forgot. Send the invoice.
Yeah. Info product businesses that I look up to are honestly it's less to do with the numbers and the success, and it's more so to do with the impact they're having. I think there's so many info product businesses that are getting away with being good marketers and being
for sure,
talented salespeople, and they're way under delivering on the product, and they kind of weaponize people's ambition against them. Right. So they get your, curiosity piqued, and they get you on a sales call, and they're able to dig for pain and figure out what your like ideal scenario is, and then position themselves as the path from point A to point B. And then through their mindset training or whatever the case may be, they end up kind of gaslighting you. If they're unable to deliver, they make it your fault.
Yep.
Right.
Of course.
And I mean, luckily, I had that happen to me like a few times, but I was just so dead set on eventually figuring it out, and so hard-headed and just persistent that it didn't matter. Like I just took every L as a learning lesson. But there's a lot of people that don't have the risk tolerance that I have, and that don't have the level of persistence that that other people do. And I mean, that one $10,000 investment that then turned into a very toxic relationship with a mentor could be the last time they ever bet on themselves. And that's terrible, man. So the ones that I look up to are the ones that I see that are actually over delivering. There's a client of mine and a good friend of mine named Jeremy Griffin. He runs a couple different, like he's got his personal brand. He's got a podcast called the Conscious Wealth Podcast. And then he has a program where he teaches people, like what money really is and how the system really works, and then how to invest their money, how to generate revenue. And he's got such an interesting approach, like so like counterintuitive to the way the rest of the industry is doing things. He declines 70% of people who try to purchase his mastermind, and he charges monthly, but he sets the expectation on the front end of the call to under promise basically and over deliver. So he says like, hey, we're going to help you hit your retirement number faster than you could on your own, but it's retirement. Like it's going to take you probably 3 years,
not
minimum
90 days
of being in this program. And so I want to make sure that you're prepared to make that investment into yourself, both from a financial standpoint and also a time standpoint, that you're going to show up for yourself, for that period of time. Otherwise it's not worth you even making the investment. And so his retention numbers are insane. The most profitable info product business that I've seen, where he's operating on like 90% margins and doing, I don't want to share his actual revenue stuff on here, but he's doing significant revenue. And all by just over delivering for every single customer that comes through. I was one of his paying members,
Yeah.
but I was kind of paying because I was like, I really wanted to get him as a client, and I knew how valuable the information was, and I knew at some point I would want to revisit it, but it just wasn't a priority for me. They kicked me out because he's got standards for his members where he's like,
if you're not doing the
if
work,
you're not showing up and doing the work, then we don't want your money.
Yeah.
What is the offer? What is it?
Huh?
What is the premise of the program?
Financial literacy.
Okay. Damn.
Wow. I've never heard of that before.
So I would say, yeah, if that's the one that I look up to the most, and blessed and grateful to say that I'm also helping him scale that thing because he's
That's
he's a
awesome.
client.
That's dope.
Damn.
What a model, dude. You just kick people out if they're not actually
Dude,
doing
because then
the
think
thing.
about it. Then the container itself is inherently valuable because
Yeah.
people are in there and they're super bought in. They're supporting each other. They're communicating. They're building relationships. Because, I mean, if you think back to the early days of like the info product space and like how we met, the community was powerful.
That
I
was
think
everything.
It's tough to like replicate powerful communities now because they're commoditized for the most part. Like people are in like 4 different masterminds at once, or
Yep.
they're jumping from one idea to the next, or they're running legitimate businesses, and it's like it's tough to time block time to like be in the community and communicating. Like you don't really want to have a bunch of small talk with people. So yeah, I think having those community standards it makes the product that much more valuable.
Yeah. I remember back to the Social X days, like that was everything, dude.
Mhm.
I think some of the great things you guys did was like as soon as you joined the community, you gave us like a spreadsheet of all the people that were in there.
The
Or
Rolodex.
like just connect with everyone. And one of the guys you're getting dinner with after the podcast, Nick Mullen, like I connected with him through Social X, Aaron, obviously, Elliot from Connected. I mean, so many guys in such like a small
The
community.
guy I just mentioned, Jeremy Griffin, I met him
From
through Social X.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's so crazy,
Yeah.
bro. That's so crazy. Yeah, dude. Join communities. It's like one of the biggest things we advocate for in this podcast. Like the right communities, though.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, and that's where I think again, just calling out kind of the space is like people don't like joining the wrong community or joining the a program that is ran by the wrong person or for the wrong intentions like could set someone's growth and development back so significantly because this stuff isn't taught in schools, right?
Mhm.
Like you're not really taught to like pursue information on your own or pursue community or pay for mentorship or pay for community, right? Like the idea of like paying for friends is like like that,
So,
that
like I feel like that's like Greek life though.
yeah, for sure. And again, Greek life helps a ton. Like
Yeah.
like it helped me a ton. Like kind of break out of my social shell and like meet new people. Otherwise, you end up just talking to the same people from high school all the time, and you don't expand your horizon of
You can't grow.
what's out there. Exactly. If you finally convince someone to take action on those theories and on those like foreign concepts, and then they're met with some scumbag who's just trying to take their money.
Yeah.
Like now all of a sudden they just revert back to traditional thinking and they're never going to grow again.
Yep. And they become the biggest advocates against
Exactly.
info, right? And so it's doing so much damage, which is it's
And
sad
so
to see.
one of my like goals and intention with impact operations is I want to work with the purpose driven info product businesses and make it literally impossible for anyone else to compete by helping them
That's
create
sweet.
proper systems and be so efficient and so profitable and reinvesting into the right places and weaponizing their data with artificial intelligence that like literally if you aren't, if you're not doing all that, you can't win.
Yeah. I guess
How do you go about finding those guys though, without just joining every community?
I join a lot of communities.
Okay.
But no, I mean, it's like, we ask very intentional questions on like you have to apply to work with us. I really want to emulate a lot of what Jay Griff's got in terms of like denying people. I haven't denied 70% of people that have tried to work with me, but I've denied quite a few because you can kind of tell, it's like one of those real recognizes real thing. And like, yeah, you can kind of fake it, but dude, when we get in your systems and we start checking things out, we can tell by the way your business runs, like what your priorities are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if someone goes to you for like operations, it's probably with good intent. Like that right away is a good sign to see that someone wants to improve operations. Right.
Well, and also our whole thesis is like we try to create flywheel systems. And in order to have something be a flywheel, it has to create trust at every milestone. And one of the like more like my VSL or whatever is going to be called like the flywheel of trust, and just like how trust increases profitability and increases like the growth of your business more significantly than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But how we do that initially is like we make sure that all of our clients prioritize client fulfillment over client acquisition. Because in doing that, think about the flywheel that creates. Each client that comes in, you deliver on the promise that you make to them. What do they want? They want you to sell them something else after that, right? If you deliver on the first promise, all that does is create an additional problem, right? If I solve customer acquisition for you, now customer fulfillment is a problem.
Yeah.
If I solve customer fulfillment, now you've got your, you've got your revenue model created. You're going to need talent acquisition now to be able to fulfill at scale, right? When you've got talent acquisition solved for, now you're going to need team performance and project management and growth plans and leadership, right? So each problem you solve creates a new problem, which gives you the opportunity to then serve that same customer, which is the most cost-effective customer to acquire is the one you already have. And then also when you deliver, they become raving fans. They become walking billboards for the brand. And so now each customer that you acquire actually goes out and gets you 3 more. In addition to that, they become case studies and testimonials. They become marketing assets for you to now go out and acquire more customers. And then they also give you tons of data so that then you're able to create more trust in the marketplace by showing the facts of what you're able to do. I mean, if you think about like charity, right? The charities that disclose where the revenue goes, where the money goes, like those are the ones that people feel the most confident and comfortable in investing into, right? It's the same thing for your business. Just like most businesses don't pull back the curtain and actually show you how the things are ran because they're propped up on some, house of cards.
Yep. It's so true, bro. It's crazy to think about. I guess the question I would have for you is like, out of some of the bigger names in the space, like there are a lot of big names that I feel like do the market very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of the ones that are doing it right? Like, I guess thoughts on a guy like Alex Hormozi, for instance.
I think for the most part, I don't know Alex personally. I've worked with some organizations that, we helped grow to a point where they were discussing partnership with acquisition.com. And he seems to be a very high integrity guy. And it is one of his core values. And he does grill the people he works with on those core values. He's super logical. I think he understand, like, that's the cool thing about it too, is it's actually in your best interest to run an ethical
of course
business, right? Like we were just talking about it with a topic I don't want to get into, but like the truth is going to come out eventually, right? And so if you want to sustain and you want to be in it for the long haul, then you have to be doing good business. And so I do think that Alex is so smart that and he seems like to be a high integrity guy as well, so I think he is doing things the right way. The only area where I feel like he maybe does his audience a disservice is the disconnect from faith. And like disconnect from God,
like a higher purpose.
Yeah, he doesn't see that. He's
a nihilist, right?
Yeah, he doesn't seem to see the value in that yet, and he hasn't reached that point. I think as he continues to ascend in his journey, inevitably he will.
I think he's just too logical.
But I'm pretty damn logical too. And like eventually.
But at what point did faith become like big in your life? Was that recently, like something you grew up on? Mm-mm. So how did you find faith as like a logical person? Because I think that's super helpful for people.
I asked another logical person a very logical question, and I couldn't tell you what his answer was, but as soon as he answered the question, it was such a profound answer that he gave. I just felt this wave of peace like come over me, and I was like, okay, I need to start building my relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
The person I'm speaking of is a dear mentor of mine. His name is Ryan Blair. And he's got a crazy story.
Is that the altar call?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's got a crazy story where like he like grew up in the streets of LA, very impoverished, like joined a gang, and then like found, he was being tried as an adult or something at 16 or 17 for a crime that he committed. And he, was praying about it and was told to write a letter to the judge. And so he wrote a letter to the judge. The judge let him off with a warning, basically, when he shouldn't have. He was just like, this was the best letter I've ever read. And, he had no academic background to have been able to
write one like
the best letter. And then, shortly thereafter, his mom starts dating somebody who becomes a mentor of his, teaches him business, gets him out of the streets, and then he goes on to become Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, New York Times bestselling author, sold a company for $800 million. And so I asked him the question. I was like, Ryan, obviously you're a guy who has sought control. Like, I know you, I've worked with you. I know you seek control, right? Like, you want control of your circumstances, you want control of your outcomes, and you're highly ambitious. How do you get around this idea that you're not in control of the outcome of your life? And it's, some egotistical big man in the sky to where if you don't worship him, you're going to burn in hell for eternity. Like, how does that resonate?
That's a great way to phrase the question.
And again, no real recollection of what his answer was, but it hit. And like at that moment, I had like really no doubt that that I needed to start prioritizing that relationship. And then that journey in of itself has been, it's just like one layer of confirmation after the next, right? And so it's like the more obedient that I am, the better my life gets,
Yep.
the more impact I'm able to have. And then as soon as I step out, like I feel like God's got me on a pretty short leash. It's like my hand gets slapped away and
Yep.
like things correct back like very quickly. If I start trying to, flaunt what I'm doing for egotistical purposes, or if I
Mhm.
start taking actions in ego, shit doesn't work.
Yep. That's awesome, bro. Yeah, that's my problem with Hormozi too, is like there's something missing. Like a big piece of it is missing. But I feel like it's really hard for entrepreneurs to like give up control.
Yep.
That's where the biggest disconnect happens, I think. I
I
guess
agree.
like as like a logical, practical person, what does that look like for you in like a daily setting? Giving up control.
I mean, if you listen to Alex, like he talks about entrepreneurship as like he doesn't seem to like fully enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Like he's doing it because he doesn't see a better alternative, which I agree with, right? But like he's like it's stress, like you're always stressed, like you're gonna suffer and all these things. And I believe that to an extent. Like in order to grow, you need to be put under pressure, right? And so like you're
Absolutely.
signing up for a certain degree of suffering because you're like gonna put yourself to the test every single day.
Mhm.
You're not like every single day you're trying to get outside of your comfort zone, which is uncomfortable, and that leads to growth.
Yeah.
In being able to kind of just surrender to God of like, hey, listen, I have so much faith that as long as I don't need to see the end outcome. I don't need to be able to control things. I just need to be able to take that next right step and trust that he's going to illuminate the next step after that. And, also not, it's kind of like giving up responsibility. It's like, sometimes when, you're in tough situations where, I don't know, maybe payroll's in question or,
Mhm.
That next layer of growth is in question, and you're starting to feel stressed and feel pressure, like realizing that a lot of that comes from ego.
Yep.
A lot of that comes from, you thinking that if you don't accomplish X, Y, or Z, if you're not able to do a certain thing, that then you aren't the person that you thought you were. And as long as like the core of who you believe you are is a child of God and like is in service to the Most High and like just trying to glorify him in all that you do, then, and knowing that like you're co-creating, you're not creating, you're co-creating with him.
Yep.
And it's like kind of his responsibility to
Yeah.
to deliver that next, that next miracle or that next clue or piece of information kind of. And it's just your responsibility to be obedient and take action when it's presented.
Yeah.
There's just a sense of peace and a sense of, I guess peace is the best way to describe it. Like,
I think you guys actually think more similar than I thought when you started on this, you and Hormozi, because you're both kind of seeking that peace because so much responsibility comes with being an entrepreneur that like it can just become a burden when things get to a certain size, but you're able to let go to be like, it's in God's hand, right? Like that's ultimately what matters. He's able to let go because his view is just like, fuck
Nothing
it.
matters.
Nobody's going to remember.
Yeah, nothing
remember us 'cause
matters.
Nothing
Yeah.
matters. So it's actually like a very similar destination that you get to. It's just in like completely different ways.
right. And so like when I watch some of the stuff that he talks about, I'm like, okay, you are a believer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just
Like, why are
don't
you
know it
denying
yet.
it?
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
articulating it in a different way. So that was, well put for sure.
It's very interesting. The other thing I disagree with him is how communities are the easiest way to get to like your first 10K a month. Absolutely.
There's an incentive for him to
No,
be
I know,
saying
but
that.
I'm saying that's the first time like
That's-
where his incentive has kind of gotten in the way of like for a beginner, that is
Him
a
telling
very
the
tough
truth.
business model to
Yeah.
start with.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is that's an objective false claim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, he's got the incentive now that he's
If
an
you
investor in
have
school.
a
Strong
you know,
personal brand.
if you've got 100,000 followers, then sure, you
Yeah.
can sell everyone a $50 subscription and make your first 10K.
Yeah,
But otherwise,
Yeah.
like you need to go develop enough expertise to be able to sell your knowledge at a recurring revenue rate.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes people are like, because in the beginning with Client Ascension, we'd have almost exclusively lead gen agencies. There were so many of them. And people would ask us, like, are you not worried that they're just going to start another Client Ascension? I'm like, no, not at all. Like, good luck. If you don't have the personal brand to start, like, the community just won't get off the ground.
Well, and even if they do, right? It's like the abundance mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, they can go start another lead gen agency. They're coming to us for information, like, and you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're so far behind though. We know the work that we're putting in every day, so it's like they'll just never catch up. So
exactly.
yeah,
and also,
for it.
dude, like, certain people are going to resonate with you,
Yeah.
and they're going to want to work with you guys. And so it's just basically, and that's what honestly is the beauty of, like, when you boil it down, it's like, you know, like meaning, or like the purpose of life and business are very similar. It's like seek truth, create love, right? And so if you are authentic and true to you, there are going to be certain people that resonate with that more than they do with what I, you know, with more than they resonate with me. And so just by being yourself and sharing that with the world, like, you're going to attract the people who are meant to work with you.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not meant to work with everyone.
Exactly.
And
you don't need to. You can build a whatever, you know, size business you want to build without having 100% market share.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Nobody's ever had 100% market share.
Yeah. Although I are you guys familiar with, like, Peter Thiel?
Of course. Yep.
That was the first business book I read was 0 to 1.
0 to 1.
Yeah.
I'm rereading that right now, and I love the concept of, like, the monopoly.
Yeah.
Like monopolizing markets. And I think that, again, the trick to doing that or creating your blue ocean is literally just, well, at least in the info product space, deliver on your promises, because nobody else is. Yeah. You can literally, you know, have not, and like, I truly believe Impact Operations will have a monopoly on the market at some point, because we're the only ones I'm aware of that do what we do, who can actually reverse engineer, like, what the system and build the system for you, because it's a very difficult problem to solve. And so I think most people that were in, like, the systems space have decided to throw in the white towel and build their community, or build, you know, get out of the done for you services, because it's a much more nuanced, like, difficult problem to solve. But that's what keeps it fun.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Yeah. Dude, hard pivot, but weren't you, like, writing for the Suns at one point?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought of that.
The
but
Phoenix
that's, like,
Suns?
Yeah.
Oh.
You got to talk about that. Was that, like, your just, like, a side passion thing, or full
No,
time?
so before, I mean, like, again, I didn't know what entrepreneurship was. Like, both my parents are, you know, very much like most of our parents, right? Because they grew up in an age where information and knowledge wasn't as easily accessible, and you didn't have social media where you could see what everybody else was doing. And they grew up in small towns, and so the agenda was go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job. And so when I was assessing jobs after I gave up on my MBA career, it was like, I want to be an MBA GM. I really enjoyed, like, fantasy sports, and you know, I was always very keen on data and numbers. And so I could tell you, like, there was a stretch of like 5 years where I could probably tell you, like, to the second decimal place, how many points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals, like 80% of the league averaged.
That's damn.
What?
And so my role wasn't actually writing for them. It was, I was doing, like, data analysis, basically, where I was going.
So if you were a GM, you would just sign based on, like, efficiency ratings. Like, I'm going to give this guy a contract because he has the best efficiency.
That, and then heart, I think.
Heart?
Yeah, because, like, one of the things, like, efficiency rating for sure, but if you're talking about, like, draft picks and stuff like that, it's like, how dedicated are they to coming into the gym early and leaving late every single day?
Did you see the movie Air?
I haven't seen it yet. No, I don't watch very many
Really
movies.
good movie.
That's like what they did. They had like the company Nike, and they're trying to pick like who they should go after in the next draft class based on like stats, highlights, all the attributes. And that's what it reminded me of.
Have you ever seen Moneyball?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to
Yep.
say, if you haven't seen that
All
one,
right.
that's like,
Let's do a little game.
Okay.
We'll go around the room. Everyone has to select one player they want to build a franchise around right now. Since I'll go last and I'll make it hard on myself.
In the NBA,
Yeah.
currently in the league right now.
Based on like age and potential and like how good they are right now. If you had one player to start a team with for the next 10 years,
There's a couple that they're pretty solid.
we'll go this way and then I'll finish.
So I have to go first?
Yeah.
So I'm not as tapped into the NBA anymore, or sports in general. I'm pretty laser focused on business. I don't know exactly how old Luka is.
That was going to be
what I was
mine.
going to go with too.
I mean, I
That's
think
probably a
He's
good
24. He's 24.
He's 24?
23.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, probably Luka then.
I'd still go with LeBron.
pick. Still.
All right, realistic answer.
LeBron, bro.
Ah,
Are you
go?
Are you building your your franchise around him as like the GM or the coach? Because like
No, the player.
everything.
So
You get
I'll
LeBron,
get-
you
I'll
get
get-
the GM, you
So
get
I'll
the
get
coach.
3 years out of LeBron, and the fact that he stays in the organization after will attract the next guy.
you think
See
you
what I'm
can
saying?
keep him for more than 3 years? He
Yeah,
likes to
I
hop
think
around a little bit.
I know. I think
he's
actually,
he's a businessman when he's going for ticket sales.
There we go.
Immediately.
I would probably go with Jokic though. I just think like in terms
He's
of like
29.
still
not bad.
though, the
Well,
dude
He'll
is
be good
just,
for 5 to 8 more years.
Yeah.
He's just
Dude
so
is just-
unathletic, it doesn't matter.
he's just so chill.
He
He's
also
like so
doesn't
stoic.
love basketball though.
True.
Like if
He
you,
doesn't love basketball. You're
Uh-uh.
saying, yeah,
He's like in interviews he's just like, yeah, I don't even
he doesn't
really
care.
Yeah, they're like, you just won the championship and won MVP. How do you feel? He's like,
Doesn't care.
I don't
wanna see
I
my
don't even
horses.
really like basketball. I just want to get.
That's why he's
home.
so good, because he just walks
That's
out to a
what that's
finals
what I
game
think
and
is so
just
great about him. He's so like
It's
careless.
nuts.
He's like the
It makes
Hormozi
no
of
sense.
basketball.
It
He
doesn't
give a
make
shit.
yeah.
There's
It's
no
very
meaning to anything.
very difficult to comprehend.
Even
because-
if you watch him play, he's just like trotting back and forth.
All right,
Yep.
Dan.
He's so good though.
I got 2 in my head, so you
I like
can't take
Anthony
both.
Edwards.
I'm
got a
thinking
couple
long
more
term.
too,
I
yeah.
think I'm gonna go Wemby.
Damn, that was one of mine. All
Yeah.
right,
That dude's just a.
I'll leave the
freak of nature.
remainder
alien.
of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, that's a good one. The only concern I have with Wemby is just like the
Health.
frame, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
It's crazy.
you're
Bro, I
just,
just saw him fucking courtside. It was so sick.
really, yeah.
But just the way he moves, he seems so much more like bendy than I've ever seen from a 7-footer, which
For
I think
sure.
will keep
he
him
can
healthy.
run. He can run.
And
the
also,
floor.
if you
yeah.
think about like medical advances and
Yeah.
stem
Yeah.
cells and things like that, it's like
he gets
there's,
hacked though.
huh?
Like he was going up for a rebound, and like Draymond was just fucking bodying. his
Plus,
shit.
the thing you said about loving basketball, everybody's like,
He
this guy's
basketball.
different. Like he's like
Yeah.
a consummate pro already. He does
Who?
not do anything else. Wemby, like he's.
I
Like
think
the most-
Edwards would be the ultimate like loves basketball.
That's what I was saying. Anthony
just
Edwards
dog.
is a legend.
Loves
Dude.
basketball and
Dog.
women.
and gambling. So he
Yeah.
could be. He could be next
Because
year.
he's Jordan's son, bro, right there.
Yeah.
That was the rumor with Jimmy Butler, was that he was somehow Michael Jordan's long lost son.
Yeah.
That's my favorite player.
Oh,
Like,
Jimmy.
I love
Butler's
Jimmy too.
fun,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
He's got the most heart when it comes to playoffs.
Yeah, he's got a crazy story. I mean, there's a lot of players like that where it's just like it's fun to watch them play. It's fun to see the tenacity. I mean, I think there's like that's why everyone loves sports though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like
absolutely.
that pursuit, and like that's I think what was so tough is so tough for people when they get out of sports to channel that like intentional aggression in pursuit of like your best
career now.
into something else.
Yep.
Right? Because like sports are so fun and you're indoctrinated like really young to like pursue excellence in them, and you can it's natural gamification. Like if you go practice, you can literally then in the game see the increased skill.
and it's like the only thing in your life up to that point that has culture.
Hmm.
Like school doesn't have culture.
True.
Nobody gives a fuck about 4th grade science class. Like nobody's having a good time. Like the only thing you have a good time with for most people is either
Video
hanging out with your
games.
friends and like
Yeah,
messing
yeah.
around, which video games, then it becomes drinking, and then it becomes whatever, or sports.
Yep.
So it's like, what? No shit. Most people end up hanging out with their friends, looking forward to the weekend and watching sports.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you've been trained to do your whole life. Once
Yeah.
you find that in a company, that's when it gets fun.
Yep, exactly. I mean, that's what like I had no idea what that was until entrepreneurship, and then once I found it, like that's why people ask me all the time like how I work so much or why I work so much, and it's like, dude, I love this shit.
yeah.
Like every single day, I get to wake up and do what I love.
Yeah.
I'll work 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and obviously, like I'll
Bro, and you will. That was kind of where I wanted to go next. Is like this whole thing with like hustle culture. Like, I think if we went around and asked like all the guys that you've worked with in Social X, like one thing they'll always say about you is your work ethic is unmatched. And I remember like you did some competitions in
Yeah.
Social X
Yeah.
that was like work 12 hours a day for like a week
30
and like
days straight.
30 days straight
Yeah.
and like log it all in a notebook and
Yeah.
send it in the Slack channel. And like you followed through on that every single time we
Yeah, I
did
was
it.
the last one standing.
Yeah, every time.
That's
every
crazy.
time. And so talk about, I guess, like work ethic and hustle culture and how you balance that. In a way.
I mean, that started with sports. So I played basketball, and I didn't hit a growth spurt until I was 17 years old. So I was a short, unathletic white kid playing at the highest level, like playing AAU travel ball and stuff. And so, time after time in my career or like in my like sports career, it was like, am I willing to work to hit that next level? So I remember like one of those instances was I was in like 5th grade. I got recruited to a club team because I was winning a lot of awards in this league, and I didn't know what club ball was at the time. I get to the club tryouts and like I made the team, but I was the worst player on the team, or like I don't know, 8th man on the team or whatever. But I played point guard, and the best player on our team was the number 1 point guard in the state.
Whoa.
And so it was pretty discouraging to like come home after like the first tournament being like, I'm never going to get to play.
Never gonna play.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, so here's our two options. We can find a new team, or you can get really good at something other than bringing the ball up and facilitating plays. And I was like, well, what else would I do? And he was like, someone's got to guard the other team's point guard. And like Jahi's not going to do it because he doesn't want to get in foul trouble. So I was like, all right, every single day at practice, then I picked up Jahi full court and I would body him up and go at him. And he would for a couple of months there, I was getting embarrassed every single play, but then by the, a couple months later, like I was one of the only kids in the state that could guard him. And so he ended up leaving the team, and his mom like left me voicemails like, can you please come to our team? You're the only one in the state who can guard Jahi. And
cool.
Who was that? Is it anybody now or no?
I think he plays overseas. He played at ASU. He won Pac-12 Freshman of the Year his first year. He got drafted by the Rockets. But yeah, I think he ended up going overseas. But then, I was up at 5 a.m. to get a couple hundred shots in before school. It was just like, that was how I operated, you know? And then again, I didn't have that purpose. I think I just have like an addictive personality too.
Yep.
So when I find something I like, it's like, I want to be the best at that. And I'm not going to stop until I am. And so then when I found entrepreneurship, it was like, not only did I find it and love it, but I had also, like you were talking about earlier with the podcast, like when something's taken away from you and then you get it back, you're that much more excited.
Yeah.
So I had gone, from age 17 to 25 with really no sense of purpose and was seeking like validation through women and like all external things. And then once I found entrepreneurship, I was like, wow, like I can actually channel myself into something. And then it's instant gamification of like, you study something, you can put it into practice, like you study copywriting, put it into practice, acquire the customer. You study marketing, like launch some ads, acquire the customer. You, study leadership, like, and get to have people hitting you up and telling you how you impacted their life. And it's just, there's so much to love about entrepreneurship. And, again, I think it also it's a God thing too. I want to change the world. I'm not in business to make a quick buck. I'm not in business to, grow a following or be famous. Like, I want to change the world. And I know that's not going to happen if I get lackadaisical after a little bit of success. It's like each bit of success pushes me to that next level.
Yep. It's a fire message to hit the lightning round with. Want to dive in? Lightning round, basically a series of few quick questions we ask you. They're meant to get the brain turning and get some deep thoughts. But cool. My question that I always ask is, if you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Damn.
That's a deep one.
Yeah, that's tough. Dead or alive and why? Viktor Frankl. You guys know him?
No.
Man's Search for Meaning. He was a psychologist or a philosopher who was captured during by Hitler and tortured in the Holocaust.
Wow.
And made it out and wrote a book. I think that would be a very
deep conversation.
Yeah. And he probably has a lot of wisdom to share, even outside of what he shared in the book. Sam Altman. I think
make sure he's not going to ruin the world. Just make sure he's chill out, Sam.
Yeah, do they have to answer my questions and actually give? So then Sam Altman, just because I think Y Combinator is such an interesting business and such an interesting business model, and they've done such a good job of funding the right companies. Yeah. That I would imagine he has some crazy data and some crazy angles as to how he does that. And then probably Gandhi.
That'd be a great one.
Those are really good ones. I don't think we've heard any of those on the podcast yet.
No.
That's good.
I think Gandhi, and I didn't answer why on Gandhi, but I think just ultimate example, just a great example of, and I would imagine, I can't say Jesus, right?
I always say Jesus, but
Okay, well, it's about Sam Altman and put Jesus probably, if that's an option. But Gandhi would be because I think just the ultimate testament of service and putting others above himself and doing what's right regardless of consequences, as well as being deeply spiritual and moved by faith.
Absolutely, bro. My question is, like, if you could go back into the Social X community at its peak and deliver like one last piece of content or one message to those guys, kind of knowing what you know now and how everything is played out, like, what would you want to tell the group?
The group of like our team or the community?
The community itself.
One piece of content to the community. I mean, I think honestly, just like the importance of purpose. You know, I think trying to start a business for the wrong reasons, or trying to start a business because other people are doing it as opposed to because of like what you want to do, it'll eventually lead you back to the same place. But I think, you know, being able to go within and, you know, really figure out who you are, and, you know, remember who you are, and tie, you know, tie some level of purpose into what you're trying to build, I think would have saved me a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then probably save them a lot of time as well. It's just, it makes it all make sense. You know?
Yeah. Love that, bro. Super important message.
I'm gonna end on a lighter question, just because you said you've been doing a lot of traveling. I'm wondering, where has your favorite place been? Not necessarily where you'd want to live, but just like favorite place that you visited.
I don't do a lot of stuff that most people do. Like I don't go out to like clubs and social activities and things of that nature. I don't really enjoy like surface level social activity.
Yeah.
I like stuff like this where we can talk, like get deep, figure out like what your
Solve
purpose
problems.
is, solve problems, talk about business, talk about faith, talk about life. I feel like it's really difficult to do that in most settings. So honestly, my favorite place was just the place where it was most efficient for me to be isolated and focus on work, which was Medellin, Colombia.
Yeah.
The quality of life versus the cost of life too. Like I was able to reduce my expenses by, you know, from anywhere from 10 to 15K a month to down to like 5-6K a month.
Wow.
While also increasing the quality of life and
Yeah.
like living a more luxurious experience. So I was able to pour more of everything that I was making back into the business. Cause I typically go to zero every month, you know, like I always tell myself I'm not, but then it's like every single time I hit a new milestone or a new level, it's like I get to then see all like the next 5 moves that I need to make. And it's like, am I going to wait to and make those investments or do it now? And every single time I've got enough faith in the fact that like God will deliver the money that I need, that I just invest it all.
Mindset,
Yeah. So it was helpful to be able to live on a lower budget, and, you know, the weather's great, the food's great. And,
That's all that matters for me. Weather and food. That's like 95% of traveling.
Absolutely.
And I was able to pay to literally delegate everything else. Like I had somebody, like you know, I'm not the most flexible person, but I enjoy lifting weights and playing basketball and things. And so I knew I needed to increase my mobility as I got older. And so I had like a personal trainer come to the house every single morning to like help me stretch.
Wow.
A private chef was, you know, getting like deep tissue massages twice a week.
Wow.
That's
you know,
awesome.
like just stuff that you can't do for less than like, you know, I don't know, 20-30K a month here in the US.
That's awesome, bro.
Damn.
See, man.
Awesome, dude. Where can our audience find you and follow you online?
It's at Jordan Armstrong. The O's are zeros. And then we do have, like, we're finally building a website. We've built the entire company without like any type of website or front end marketing, because we've just been focused on delivering on our promises and doing really good work on the back end. And so naturally our customers refer us and continue to work with us. But we are finally building a website and trying to scale. So you'd be able to find that at www.impactops.io.
Awesome, bro. Dude, thanks for
That was
coming
great.
on the show,
Crushed it,
bro.
dude. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.